In one of my management classes, I sit in the same seat in the front every day. Every single day I sit there. Now, I also sit next to some foreign guy that barely speaks English. The most advanced thing I've heard this guy say in English is, "Oh, my muffin is really good." This guy also has a habit of stacking every item he owns in the exact space I sit. His bag, his food, his books, and phone are always right on my desk space. Now, every single time I walk into class, this guy says, "Ah, Tom, you here? Okay," and starts frantically clearing my desk of his belongings. He then makes it a habit to say, "Ready for class, yeah?" and gives me a high five. Every day, this guy gives me a high five. I was always annoyed with this guy. I'm thinking, dude, you know I sit in this seat every day. Why are you always stacking your stuff here? And the last thing I want to do is give a guy who barely speaks my language high fives at 8 in the morning. Just get your stuff off my desk. But today I came to class and was running a few minutes late. I'm standing outside because I had to send a quick text. I could see my usual space through the door out of the corner of my eye. Of course, my desk was filled with his belongings. The usual. As I'm standing there on my phone, another guy who was also late walks into the class before me and tried to take my seat since it's closest to the door. The guy sitting next to me stops this dude from sitting down and says, "I'm sorry, my good friend Thomas sits here." It was then that I realized this guy wasn't putting stuff on my seat to annoy me. He was saving me the seat every morning. And this whole time, he saw me as a friend. But I was too busy thinking about myself to take him into consideration. Cheesy as it sounds, I was touched. I ended up going into class, and of course he cleared the seat and said, "Ah, Tom, you here? Okay." And I did get a high five. At the end of class, I ended up asking him if he wanted to go get a bite to eat with me. We did, and we talked for a while. I got through the broken English. The guy moved here from the Middle East to pursue a college education in America. He plans to go back after he gets his degree. He's got 2 kids and a wife. He works full-time and sends all of his leftover money back home to his wife. I asked him how he liked America as well. He said he misses his family, but it's exciting to be here. He also said, "Not every person is nice to me like you are, Tom." I bought lunch, of course. Dude deserves it. He gave me a high five for buying lunch. Gotta keep up tradition. Moral of the story? Don't do what I do and constantly only think about yourself. It took me nearly the entire semester to realize this guy was just trying to be my friend. Better late than never, I suppose.
And I'm secretly in love with someone. It's my best friend. But the deal is that my best friend is a girl, and she's in love with somebody else. Actually, I can't exactly figure out how everything started. Gillian and I have been friends for about 5 years already. When I moved to town with my family, she was the first one to talk to me. We went to the same school, had the same classes, and even lived on the same street, so we practically spent all of our time together. You know, we were neither popular nor pretty, frankly speaking. Boys at school would usually mock us, but it didn't bother us, since we were there supporting each other. But when we grew older and started going to high school, things became different. After another summer was over and Gillian and I went to high school, I suddenly noticed that my gal pal had turned from an ugly duckling into a swan. Surprisingly enough, I was not the only one who noticed it. Boys began showing off to get her attention, sending her secret notes and so on. By the way, she also began behaving differently. She was now wearing skirts and makeup, and even switched up her glasses to prescription contact lenses, while before, we always used to think that a girl didn't have to improve her appearance for anyone. Anyway, you might have guessed that while Gillian was taking advantage of all this extra male attention, I was where I always was, an object of mockery and disgrace. I can't say that I was envious of my friend, but I had certainly noticed that she was now really fond of the effect her appearance was having on men, and I don't think I felt happy for her. Her attitude toward me, though, didn't seem to change. But then a guy appeared. His name was Philip. I don't know why I didn't like him from the beginning, and it was mutual, by the way. He seemed to be too gentle with all the annoying "babe" and "honey" and other namby-pamby talk, and I felt like I was about to throw up when I saw him kiss Gillian's hand. She knew how I felt about their love, But you know, it was her first boyfriend so far, and she was my best friend, so I thought I'd better leave their relationship up to them, and I sort of got distant. At first, Gillian was worried that something had happened to me when I refused to go to the movies with them for the third time in a row, but when she called, I told her that it's probably better for us that we don't see each other as much, rather than me constantly hanging out with her, Prince Charming, and feeling nauseous because of him. This made her laugh, and she promised to figure out a perfect schedule for everyone. But she never did. She kept spending time with Philip, and I hated him. No, really, I believe it was hatred. I didn't feel any happiness for my friend anymore. Maybe I was jealous that I didn't have a boyfriend so far, and I didn't need one, actually. But I needed my friend, who was paying too much attention to Philip, while knowing that I was alone, having nobody except her to talk to. All these thoughts were constantly twisting inside my head when she showed up. It was raining outside, and she seemed to be soaked to the bone. She said she was dying to tell me something, and while I was getting her a towel, I noticed that she looked excited. While I was making tea for her so that she wouldn't get sick, she told me how wonderful Philip was, and that she had met his parents, and he'd gotten acquainted with her parents, and so on. And then she told me that Philip had proposed to her, and that they were going to get married after prom. It was shocking. I was like, aren't you too young for marriage? And what do your parents think about it? And so on. Gosh, I had lots of questions. Gillian was probably expecting another reaction from me. She explained that it was just a dream for both of them, and that she hadn't discussed it with their parents yet, but she felt like the happiest girl in the world for having her precious Philip. And she also said that even though I didn't like him, I should be happy for her, since I've always said that we were best friends. When he proposed, she felt the need to tell me about it first, but I felt awkward. I felt mean. I should have said that I was happy for her, if I was her real friend, but I couldn't force myself to do that, and I felt like it wasn't because of Philip. I was just standing there with the teapot looking at her, while she had that angry look on her face and was still in those wet clothes, when I thought she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. This sudden thought and the feeling inside me, it terrified me so much. Gillian might have noticed something, but she thought I was just against Philip, or whatever, and she sort of took it personally and just left without having tea or saying anything else. Only I knew it was totally not because what she had told me. I was in a panic. At first I didn't want to believe that I felt an actual romantic attraction to Gillian. I mean, she was a girl, you guys. I've never thought of love that way before. Then I tried to test myself. Every time I would think of her, remembering something about her eyes, her long curly hair and her nice long legs, I was getting more and more convinced that I was in love with her. I kept thinking about it over and over again. I never thought I was a lesbian before, and honestly speaking, there were some guys like movie stars who I had thought about in a romantic way, but now I knew that those feelings I had toward my best friend were definitely not those of a simple friendship. This must have been the real reason why I didn't like Philip that much. The next day I called Gillian and asked her to forgive me for my reaction. I told her that I was in shock when I heard the news and that I was jealous. It wasn't a lie, actually. I just never mentioned that I loved her. Fortunately, she forgave me, and even more, she told me that their parents were not okay with their decision to get married, at least until they graduate from college. It was a relief to hear that, and I was happy that I'd made up with my bestie. You know, I'm constantly feeling torn to pieces when I see how happy she is with her boyfriend. I'm afraid to confess my love for her. What if she doesn't want to be my friend anymore, once she knows about my feelings? What if everyone else will find everything out? What should I do, guys? How can I live with such a secret? If you have any ideas, share them in the comments below this video. And if you like stories like mine, don't forget to...
My stepdad tried to kill us. Storytime. Growing up, my mom was in a very toxic relationship with my stepdad. And it was so bad that they would argue every single day, and many nights my mom would be left crying. And she tried to hide it from me and my brother, but we knew what was going on. Well, this one time they got into an argument, it got super heated and it almost became physical. Me and my brother had to literally hold them back from each other. And their fight became so big that my mom had to call the police to get him removed from the house. And after that entire incident, the next day he came back to the house to get all of his stuff and then he just left. And we thought we would never have to see him again. Until about a week later. During the middle of the night while we were all sleeping, he snuck into our house, put gasoline on everything, and set it on fire. And the only reason we got out of there is because the fire alarm started going off. Then my mom woke up.